Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Seriously in Business podcast. My name is Jacqui and I am so excited to share with you a very special guest today. This is going to be a wonderful conversation, particularly for those of you who are interested or stressed or are not so great with money. My guest is Clare Wood and she is a money mentor, a speaker and podcaster. And she's a qualified accountant, so she knows her stuff, but she's not your average bean counter. I love that language. She uses her money-making mentoring powers for good. Clare helps service-based businesses to scale while creating the lifestyle that they love. Clare Wood runs the Profit Academy, an online school created to help business owners increase their profits exponentially. And she is also the author of Intentional Profit, which is the book I have right here for those of you who are on YouTube. And it is a wonderful book that I have personally read and given my mum, who is also an accountant, to read. And I'm really excited to chat with you today. Clare and I talk all things knowing your numbers and what that looks like. We also chat a bit about her business and life and what things kind of look like as a mum and a business owner, practically for her. And we also chat about investments and knowing when is a good time to invest in something and how our cash flow and different things like that can help with knowing those kinds of things. So join us for an incredible episode, and I hope you are inspired to sit down and maybe have your own money meeting at the end of this episode. All right, I'll see you later. Welcome, Clare, to the podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
For those who don't know, when I first met Clare at her book launch, more towards the start of the year. When did you have your Brisbane book launch?
Oh, gosh, I can't even remember. I think it was March, maybe.
You've had a few in different states and stuff, so probably it's all blurred into one at this point.
Exactly. It's all starting to get a bit blurry. Yeah.
So, because what happened for me was it was such a weird story. So I was up in Brisbane visiting family, my brother and sister-in-law, and I was also on a call with someone for a work thing, and I heard them saying, "Oh, we're going to this book launch." And I was like, I love networking things, and I live in Bendigo, so there's not a heap of stuff going on all the time. I'd have to go to Melbourne, and that's still 2 hours away. And I was like, I'm in Brisbane right now. Let's go to this thing. So I looked up a last-minute ticket. It came along, made my sister drive me, and I didn't bring any makeup or anything. So I was using her makeup, and I just wore my Birks. It was great. I did have a dress with me though, which was really great. And I got to come to this book launch and get to hear all about you and your business and your book, and got to hear some of your journey, which I was really inspired by. So I'm excited to have you on today and get to share with listeners some of what you have to share around money, but also around business as well.
That's such a cool story. I love it. The spur of the moment decision.
Yeah, it's like the epitome of me. If anyone's been watching us on Instagram, my husband and I just got back from a trip to WA, and we decided we were going there for his work, and we decided last minute that we wouldn't fly, and then we would buy a van, and then we would drive, and we made all that decision within a week of leaving. That's fine. That's just what we do last minute. So much fun. Anyway, let's get into the podcast. I would love to know, I always ask my listeners, my guests, what an average day in their life and business looks like. And just if you're able to give us a bit of a snapshot of what does a day look like for you? Obviously every day will be a little bit different, but what, from getting up to going to bed, what's your average day look like?
My life is this crazy roller coaster that is literally so different all the time. Look, there's a couple of things that are consistent. The first one is that I always wake up early.
What do you call early?
So I'm usually awake about 5:30, 6 is about 5:30, 6-ish. And, my husband and I did that even before we had kids. So we get up, get the day started kind of early, and we always go for a morning walk. So I've been doing this since my whole life, pretty much. Since I was a kid, I've got up and gone for a morning walk every day. My mum used to do it. And, we've been through all the stages of having, a baby in a baby carrier, then in a pram, then the first one got onto a scooter, and then we had another baby, and now our kids ride their bikes, and my hubby and I walk. So we live near the beach, so we get up and go for a walk to the beach every morning, which is just such a beautiful start to the day. And if I have every second day, I do a workout. So I either go to the gym or I do a workout at home in front of a video. And then from there, what unfolds is always different. I've got 2 kids who are now at school. So some days we ride the kids to school. My husband might do it. I might do it, depending on who's got calls, who's got things on with work. And my work days are quite fluid. I found I love the idea of having a routine to set the day up, like sitting down, doing meditation, doing journaling. But the reality is, like with kids and the way, especially with my work, like some days I'm doing a podcast recording that needs to be at a certain time. Some days, so it's pretty fluid. But my week generally will involve coaching calls with my clients, presenting my courses, appearing as a guest. This morning I've spoke to a mastermind community, to a group. I've got another podcast recording this afternoon, creating social media content, creating newsletter content, recording my own podcast. It's very, very varied. And yeah, truthfully, there's not a lot of structure around it. And, even school pickup, some days the kids go to after school care. Some days my hubby will do it. Some days I'll do it. And I know you were curious about, do I work at night? And the reality is, again, that fluidity carries into the night. I don't do client calls. I don't do client boxes at night. Like I have a firm 5 p.m. cutoff with that. But sometimes I need to be posting my social media post, or I might have a spur of I might be checking my emails. And at this stage of life, that seems to work okay. It does mean that I do get flexibility during the week, which, for example, tomorrow I'm going to a charity lunch, and in the middle of the day I'll be going out for a couple of hours, and I can do that guilt-free because I occasionally work at night and on the weekend. So yeah, that's a little bit about my week. Every week is completely different, which works really well for someone like me. And there's never a dull moment.
That's amazing. Your day, like the fluidity of it all, sounds very similar to how I work. I'm like, I want to have that flexibility during the days, that if I want to catch up with a friend for coffee or go to an event, that I can, and know that I can still catch up in the evenings if I want to, or vice versa. And yeah, for me, obviously in this season of life with a toddler, it's very different. I'm like mostly hanging out with her during the day and then mostly working in the evening. So it's all over there. But yeah, I love that you're allowed yourself, but not mean it wrong, that you just have that fluidity, and it ebbs and flows with whatever life is needing from you at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do think that there will come a time where I want to get a lot more structure around, that I clock off at 5 and I never have to look at the laptop again. But in this season of life, it seems to be working. So roll with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So how long have you had your business officially?
So I'm coming up to 8 years being in business this year, which is just mind-blowing.
It's wild, isn't it? It just adds up so quickly. Like, hold on, wasn't it just yesterday I was starting things out? So for you, what do you think have been some of the biggest changes your business has gone through from when you first started those 8 years ago to where you are now?
Oh, well, I mean, when I first got started in business, I was like everyone. I had absolutely clueless about what I was doing, who I was serving. I would work with anyone. I'm like, everyone is my target market. I didn't really know what my niche was or what my big calling was. And now I've got so much clearer about who I am, who I serve, my vision, my purpose, my passion. And I think that just comes with time. Like, I mean, you really only sort of figure this stuff out as you grow and evolve. And it's funny because when I first got started in business, I didn't want to tell anyone I was an accountant. And now, that's kind of become a big part of my branding and positioning. I've owned it loudly and proudly. And yeah, and again, my days, I sort of went through the early days where you're just desperate for clients. And then I went through a couple of years where I was just, it was kind of in the COVID years, coaching just went crazy. And I was just coaching. Like all I was doing was on coaching calls, working really long hours. And I've kind of swung back the other way now where I've, wanted to create a bit more flexibility and freedom in my life and focusing in on scalable offerings and services. So my courses are a big thing that I focus on, my mastermind, and promoting the book, like trying to, sell things that don't require additional input from me. But I can hand on heart say I really love my business, and I'm so grateful and blessed to be doing what I'm doing.
That's so cool. Thanks for sharing that. I think, yeah, the at the start when you're just working with anyone and everyone, I always give the example when I first even made my brand, did it white and grey because I was just terrified of deterring anyone. I was like, nah, need to appeal to absolutely everyone because I need people. Please go work with me. And so yeah, I think at the start we're kind of just finding our way, and then if you find your way too much, and then you kind of get too busy, and then you kind of work out actually how can I make this sustainable for my life long term rather than being on coaching calls 24/7 of my life. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. And so a lot of what you share with people is some like a wide range of things around business and money and all these different sorts of things. And so I know that you are as an accountant, you do have a lot of great brains on your head around money and how to use that well and how to invest it well and all of these different things. And I was saying to you before the call that I am not one of those people naturally. My mum is an accountant, and she's obviously all in that and a really great accountant and did cool things. And now she's trying to help me, and her poor creative daughter just doesn't like, she has to teach me reconciling almost every single time we do it because it just doesn't stick in my brain. These things don't connect with my brain. That like the little parts aren't zapping together as they would so easily with creative things. But I know that knowing my numbers and being over that side of my business and knowing the data and looking at things like that is really, really important. And so like for you as someone who like you would work with so many businesses and you would see the people that are like me that aren't so great and people that are worse than me that really don't even know anything about it. What has there been any like, I guess, almost scary stories of people that have just had no clue around this kind of stuff and how that's then impacted their business?
Oh, absolutely. And to be honest, I still make mistakes when it comes to my money over the years as well. I've definitely ended up with tax bills that I hadn't provided for. I mean, I knew that it was coming, but to get in a situation where I'm like, I'm an accountant. How did I not have the money put aside for my tax? So, but, some of the horror stories, I guess, I've had clients with, like one of my clients had a $250,000 tax bill, and then that was a historical one. Then another, she would have had another 300-400 coming for that year. And even though she had, $1 million a year business, to have a $500,000 tax debt is freaking scary. And she was really, she's a creative, and she was like, I genuinely just didn't realize I needed to put that much money aside. Yeah. I've had a lot of people who haven't submitted tax returns, which is actually against the law. And, I think the big thing that this is why I'm so passionate about teaching about numbers is I'm like, you can't run a business and not know this stuff. Like you just cannot, because that is, you've got legal obligations around it. And so you want to make sure that you're making money, right? Like this is the whole reason that we're doing this, is to turn a profit. So the way that I like to teach about numbers is like in a really, I guess, non-intimidating way, because I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I failed introduction to accounting. First year uni. I was a straight A student at school. I got to uni and I failed intro to accounting. It was the first thing I'd ever failed in my life. And it just sounded like they were speaking some foreign language to me. It was like gobbledygook. And I'm like, I'm a smart person. Why can't I understand this? And obviously it's not because I'm not good at accounting. I've gone on and done multiple degrees, including my postgraduate qualification, a CPA. And I'm like, it's just that a lot of people in this space just don't explain things in an easy to understand way. And so that's why I'm really passionate about making it easy to understand and not overwhelming, because I too was like, what the frick? Even with my accountant, sometimes I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm a qualified accountant myself. So I'm like, I can't even imagine what it must be like for non-numbers people. So that's why, I'm really passionate about empowering people to get right across their finances, because otherwise you can end up in some real icky situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how do you, like, if someone felt like they weren't on top of this as much as they should be, what would you say are some of the first steps that people could be taking to start to not only just educate themselves, but also just, I know like in your book, you talk about money meetings and kind of really just looking at things and using those to make your decisions. And what are some things that we can do really practically to take, I guess, empowered action.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is, first of all, educate yourself. I created my course. It's called Foundations, and it's just teaching you the foundations of profit. But, you know, lots of people teach about this. Your accountant, go sit down with your accountant and say, hey, I really want to learn. I want to understand. Learn the terms. Learn what you need to know, what you need to be looking at would be the first thing that I would say. And then, yeah, set up your regular money meetings. I have a ton of money meetings. I have a money meeting every week with my husband. That's a personal finance one. Yep. I have a cash flow forecast meeting every week with my accountant, my bookkeeper rather. And I have a month-end meeting with my accountant every single month. And the reason why I'm so empowered with my finances is because I invest a lot of time to be. And I genuinely worry for people that aren't spending that amount of time, you know, in their finances. So the structure that I created is it's 1 hour once a month and 15 minutes once a week. And I think that is manageable for any business owner. Yeah. And it just means that you know what's going on with your business. Yeah. So I really recommend that you set up some money meetings as well if you're listening or watching this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like, I've got Claire's book here, and in here, almost at the end of each chapter, it was almost like, add this to your money meeting or talk about this part in your money meeting. I find that really, really helpful. And like, I guess once you kind of know those numbers, you can actually make the right decisions for your business rather than kind of just guessing, which a lot of us use our gut, which isn't always horrible, but if it's coupled with actually knowing the numbers, it can be really, really powerful, I think, rather than just guessing the way through our businesses, especially like the two things you said. Well, firstly, there's that idea that we started a business to make money. Like, yes, we want to help people through our business, and that's amazing, but you run a business to make money. And so if we're not knowing our numbers, then we might be thinking we're making money and we might not be, or we get to tax time, we're like, cool. And also that point of, if you want to scale your business, if you want to grow it, like you could be earning like $50,000 a year and you could probably make it by like just kind of fudging your way through a little bit, just making sure you're keeping up with the law, and that's about it. But once you actually want to grow your business, you need to know stuff. You need to be able to make the right decisions and not get caught out. Because you hear so many stories of people that get caught out with different things or don't realize all those different parts. And yeah,
100%. I know that, like, in my own business, so I've got my cash flow forecast through to next year done. Yeah. And I know that even if I don't make one single more sale for the rest of the year, that I have enough money to pay myself a wage and for the business to stay cash positive through to mid to late January next year.
A nice feeling.
It's such a nice feeling. And, you know, and using a tool like that means that you can make decisions. Like, I'm really due for a photo shoot in my business, but the way that I do it, like, I hire a house, I hire stylists, you know,
a big deal.
I kind of go all in. I create like 12 months worth of content in, you know, a couple of hours. So there's a lot of planning and a lot of cost that goes into the way that I do it. But, you know, I can look and I can say, you know, if I have, like, I'm launching my course again next month, if I have a big launch, great, I can pull it forward and have it this year. But if I don't, I'm like, I can push that out. Like, at this stage, I'm like, that's not something I need to do right here, right now. So it really is about being empowered, about making those decisions around the best way to move forward. And that's what I think, you know, I talk about again and again, is like being empowered with your decision making.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember when we were at your book launch, you're kind of saying investing in the book was a little bit scary and a little bit big. Could you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I write my next book, when I write my next book, I'm going to do it very different. Yeah. You know, I'm going to do it really differently. This book was, because I didn't know what I was doing, I paid a lot of people a lot of money for things that probably in hindsight I didn't need to do. And yeah, but, you know, I can't regret it because obviously the book's become a bestseller. It's opened so many doors for me, paid speaking opportunities. I recently made a wholesale sale of 1,000 books.
Congratulations.
Which is really cool. Thank you. And, you know, wholesale sales are coming through like they're just ticking away. And this is really, you know, I'm loving this stage of the journey. But I think the next book that I write, I probably won't spend as much on the creation of it as I did the last one.
Yeah, because there'd be a lot of a lot of spend with like, it has gone well, but like past you didn't know if that was going to happen, and it could have been really not gone well. Yeah.
I manifested that it would. I manifested on my very first
You're
post
pushing
about
that.
the book. I put hashtag bestseller. I just put it. I was like, there is no room for this book not to be a success.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's so good. Okay. And so one of the things that I loved in your book was where you chatted about investments and different things we do have to spend money on. And we've kind of talked about two of those right now for you in terms of your book, and also like things like the photo shoot and stuff like that. And so would you be able to give us a little bit of a crash course in, I guess, different kinds of investments and how we can know when is the right time to invest in certain things? Because I think in this climate, it's, I don't know, but a lot of the people that I'm speaking to are they're feeling a little bit tighter with their money. I don't want to kind of be like, oh, it's all going bad, because I don't believe in speaking that too much, but also acknowledging that people are probably just being a little bit more careful with how they're spending money. So how can we carefully make some really great investments while knowing our numbers and making decisions, I guess, really intentionally, which is, I guess, the name of your book, Intentional Profit, rather than kind of just guessing it or being so scared that we don't actually do anything that could actually move our business forward?
Yeah. So look, there's a couple of different types of investments. There's the sales generating investments. So for me, and again, this is different for every business, but like for me, my largest cost is usually my coach. I am a big believer in coaching, in having someone to support you with mindset and strategy. And yeah, that's definitely an investment that I lean into heavily. For other people, that might look like marketing. It might look like Facebook ads. It's really about something like, is this helping me to make more sales in my business? And then there's the longer term, there's like the necessary costs of business, like paying an accountant. I mean, legals, all of those, insurance. There's a lot of things that probably we don't really want to spend money on, but we've got to for compliance reasons. And then there's our long-term growth strategies. So an example of this is like the photo shoot. Like, if I didn't ever take photos again for the rest of my life, and I kept posting photos of me, I'm 60 years old posting, photos that people probably be like, what the frick? Like, that doesn't even look like her, dated, it's not modern. So you can't not invest in your long-term branding and all of those things. So, but again, like, I know when I did my website, I invested a lot in my website. It was like $15,000 for my website. And my hubby's like, where's this money? And I'm like, well, it doesn't work like that. Like, it's not like you put a new website up and suddenly you make 15 grand back overnight. But obviously the aesthetics of my business and my brand and everything have a big impact. I work with mostly multi-6 and 7-figure business owners in the one-on-one space, and I work with earlier stage entrepreneurs in my programs and courses. But people want to know that you've got a professional look and feel when they look at your brand. So yeah, it's kind of juggling all of those things and figuring out, and again, this is what I talk about in the book. People are always like, what percentage should I spend on marketing? And I'm like, but it's different for every business. I've worked with some people who've got a very wealthy partner, and they're like, you don't even need to turn a profit in your business. Whereas for me, I started my business at a 6-month-old baby and a Sydney mortgage. Like, it wasn't an option not to make money right from the outset. Yeah. So everyone's got a different circumstance. And I just think the big thing that I would just say is do it with intention. That's what my forecast is. Like, I look and I go, do I really need to do the photo shoot right now? If I have a big launch next month, maybe I can pull it forward. But otherwise, it's probably something that I can leave until next year. It's about doing it with intention. And that's what I'm a big believer in.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so I'm going to ask a potentially silly question now. With forecasting, how do you forecast accurately? Like, because obviously things change and you can't predict those changes, but obviously you're looking at past data to bring that forward to
Yeah, for sure. So there's two different ways that, I use forward-facing planning. The first one is a budget, which is a 12-month plan. Now, a lot of people freak out. They're like, how do I know what's going to happen in 12 months? And I'm like, dude, I've worked for some of the biggest companies in the world. They don't know what's going to happen in 12 months' time. Like, I used to work in oil and gas. I used to work in coal. I used to work in product-based businesses. No one ever knows. No one could predict COVID. But you just make a plan based on the best information that you've got at the time, and be okay with the fact that, you're going to get it wrong. You're going to make mistakes, but it's a guide. It's more of a, what's the game plan at this point in time with the information that we have available. And then the cash flow forecast is something that I do every single week. I update. And the cash flow forecast to me is a lot of a firmer view forward. You will know, or hopefully most businesses know with a little bit of accurate, what's at least happening for the next month or two. You'll know, okay, I've got those retainer clients, or I've got that project that's going to be coming in about that date. I know that I've got these regular expenses in my business. And this is your cash flow forecast is a lot more of a firmer look forward over the next couple of months. And the reason why I love this tool so much is because it's your decision-making tool. If you look at your forecast and you're like, oh crap, I'm going to run out of money, you go, right, do we really need to do the photo shoot right now? Or can I launch something else? Like I would love to still do my photo shoot. So I'm doing a launch next month. Yeah. There's also other things that always pop up for me, new clients, new VIP days. I can have then a view of what else could I launch? What could I do to bring in even more cash in the short term? So that's what I would say. The forecast is a bit more of a firmer view, but the budget, it is. It's the best guess that you have at any point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense. That's something I need to get into better is the cash flow forecast of like, I know I've got these things coming in, but I don't know I've got these things coming in an actual thing. So that's something I've been meaning to do for the last few months, and I will get there. And for those people that are very unsure about numbers, I did find your book quite easy to understand from this perspective. So you are very good at dumbing it down for us. I spoke.
I think that's just how my brain thinks about it. I'm like, do we really need to use complex?
I'm the same with design. Like all designers are like, no, it's called a typeface. And I was like, yeah, but everyone else knows them as fonts. So I'm going to use the word fonts because that's what people make sense. It's like, let's just use words that make sense to people, even though they're not quite the fancy word to use. Yeah. I hear you. Amazing. That's so cool. So if anyone is wanting to work with you or learn more about what you do, how can we jump into your world and learn more about what you have coming, especially your launch you have coming?
Yeah, for sure. So, grab a copy of the book. It's called Intentional Profit. You can Google it, grab it on Amazon, grab it on Booktopia, all of the major platforms. Come listen to my podcast, which is called the Clare Wood Podcast. Very creative.
It's clear.
You can tell I'm not a creative. Come say hi on Instagram is my main platform that I hang out. I share stories, posts regularly, and it's Clare, CLARE _Wood_coach, and drop me a DM, say hi. Check out my challenge that's coming up. That's probably a really good platform to connect on.
Amazing. Yeah. She's I remember at the book launch, people were saying that you were just so great on Instagram and love showing up and love sharing life. So definitely jump over there if you're an Instagram person, which I think most of my listeners are, because that's where I love to be, at least. It's so great. Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us today. I've so appreciated your time and your insights and your wisdom. So thank you for being here, and enjoy the rest of your sunny Brisbane day.
Amazing. Thanks for having me, Jacqui.